Good day, and let's have the second part of the video or discussion under stress. No? And this time we'll be talking about coping strategies. Okay, and as you can see, we have different types, okay, or strategies. We have here active cognitive, active behavioral, and avoidance. Right, and when we talk about coping strategies, no, uh, we, we, we basically devise different ways on how to cope with the stress. Okay, and of course, coping would refer to the thoughts and the behaviors that we use to handle stress or anticipated stress. Okay, so we have here. Let's start with the first one: active cognitive strategy. Okay, so people using these strategies would actively think about the situation in an effort to make things better. Okay, so there's the active thinking and having efforts of solving problems to make things better. Okay, for example, a girl who has just broken up with her boyfriend may cope, okay, by convincing herself that she will be better off in the long run, okay, because she can use her experience as a lesson on how to establish a happier and more lasting relationship. Okay, so it's like using the experience to or she would be able to use her experience in the next time that she gets romantically involved with another man. Okay, so again, active cognitive strategy is to think or actively think about the situation in an effort to make things better. Now, um, the second one is the active behavioral, right? And when faced with a problem, right, some people take some action to improve the situation. Of course, no? So the person does something to solve the problem. For example, right, a student who is problematic because he is failing in his college algebra, okay, he would try to cope with his difficulties. Like, if he is a wealthy person, he could hire a tutor, okay? Or not, he would attend remedial classes in the subject so as, to improve his situation, okay? That he is not good in algebra. But then, of course, to cope with this, he would try to hire a tutor or attend remedial classes so that he would cope up with his um, problem or difficulty. Okay, so active behavioral is to take some action to improve the situation. Okay, and lastly, we have avoidance strategy. Okay, and these are strategies that is employed by people. Okay, who keep the stress-provoking situation out of their awareness. Okay, or they flee to the situation. For example, if a loved one is suffering from a serious health problem, okay, an individual may be able to cope with the situation by not thinking about the person, or by trying to convince himself that the illness is not really that serious. Okay, so that to lessen the pain, or to avoid stress. All right, and those are the different coping strategies that we have, but we also have defense mechanisms. Okay, and you know um, defense mechanisms is proposed by Freud, no, and followed by other psychologists. Okay, and when we talk about defense mechanisms, these are unconscious strategies that maintain a person's sense of control and self worth by distorting or denying the actual nature of the situation. Okay, now um, we have different types. We have a lot, no? Displacement, rationalization, intellectualization, and many more. Okay, so let's take a look at each of these um, mechanisms. Let's start with rationalization. Okay, so this is a defense mechanism, okay, in which people would give logical or plausible, okay, but false reasons in order to cover up the real cause of his frustration. All right, um, you know there are ways, no? We excuse ourselves. Sometimes we try to look for different excuses in life. Okay, we rationalize. Like for example, I cheated in class because you know everyone does it. That's why I cheated. You know. The next one is sublimation, and sublimation is considered as the most healthy, okay, kind of um, defense mechanism. Okay, and this is an adjustment mechanism by which unacceptable desires and characteristics are directed into social activities that have a strong social approval. Okay, that when you are, for example, an aggressive person, okay, you sublime and become a boxer and focus your aggressive tendencies to your opponent. Okay, or not only that, okay, by painting, that is socially acceptable. Okay, and other examples could be talked about. No? Now we have the famous projection. Okay, and when we talk about projection, this is a defense mechanism wherein the individual attributes his unacceptable thoughts or desires to others. Or this is what we so called, we project, you know, when you have a crush to the girl beside you, okay, you'll just tell that, hey, my friend has a crush on you, but in reality, okay, you are the person who has crush on her, right? Projection of feelings. Also, we have reaction formation. Okay, and this is a defense mechanism whereby the individual does the direct opposite of what he feels. Okay, so at times the actions or responses develop are exaggerated and sometimes intolerable. Okay, reaction formation is doing the direct opposite of what we feel. Okay, and yeah, for example, psychologists say if a person loves too much, even at the stupid things, he is lonely deep inside. You know, we can see people who do this, no? That we know that they are hurt inside, but when we talk to them as if they are very happy, that's what we call reaction formation. No? That doing the direct opposite of what we really feel. Okay? Now, regression, okay, is um, basically going back. Okay, so regression is um, the process of completely, the person would try to unconsciously return, okay, to an earlier and less mature level of development to flee from painful realities and present responsibilities. Like, for example, we have here, um, due to the pressure of college, Tom starts sucking his thumb, and that is a childhood habit. Okay? Like, we regress, we go back to our childhood experiences just to flee from the painful realities and responsibilities that we have. Okay, and when we talk about nomadism, is you know nomads. Okay, nomads are considered as you know wanderers. Okay, so this defense mechanism is that individuals wander from one situation or place to another to escape from frustration. Okay, so they go from one place to another to flee from frustration or stress, right? Also, dissociation is that we try to dissociate because we don't want to deal with a situation, or you know and the next one is denial, one of the famous one. Okay, denial or denying. Okay, or ignoring the presence of a threatening situation. Okay, and of course not only a threatening situation, it could be a frustrating experience. Okay, that when someone asks you, are you okay? Okay, yeah, I'm fine, but in reality you're not. You deny the true feelings that you have. Okay, also we have fantasy. Okay, and when we talk about fantasy, the individual escapes to a world of dreams to avoid you know real life difficulties and provide relief from the impact of the frustrating experience. Okay, and identification. Okay, this by identifying with something or someone, so you can increase your sense of ego and self-worth. Okay, so saying that a famous singer is a friend of yours, okay, might make you admired, and so would cause you to feel better about your other problems. Okay, so the person enhances his feelings of importance by imitating or acquiring the traits of a person whom he admires. And this is, very evident in today's generation. We try to cosplay. We use different clothes worn by our idols. And we try to identify ourselves with them. Okay? And acting out is basically acts without, regard for the negative experience, consequences. Okay? And despite of the different consequences, we still do it. Okay, and we act out our real feelings. Okay, intellectualization, on the other hand, is that um, intellectualizing. Okay, is one of the commonest one. And it's the use of a cognitive approach. Okay, to suppress emotions and attempt to gain mastery over the perceived disorderly and potentially overwhelming impulses. Okay, for example, an individual might be an individual who, when told of a life-threatening disease, focuses exclusively on the statistical percentages of recovery, okay, and is unable to cope with their fear and sadness. Okay, so or excessive abstract thinking to avoid reality or experiencing some very disturbing feelings of or about self. Okay, that as the example that was given earlier, no? That when the individual was told that uh, he has a threatening disease, okay, he'll just look for ways, no? I still have the ability to survive. We intellectualize, okay? Suppression, on the other hand, is our way of avoiding, or we intentionally avoid thinking about disturbing thoughts, okay, and problems, experiences, or feelings. In other words, we suppress. We put these conscious problems into our unconscious. Okay, and we have repression. It's our you know, repression is unable to remember or be aware of disturbing lusts, wishes, feelings, thoughts, or experiences related to sin. Okay? This is related to suppression, but in a different way. Let's take a look at this. No? Anger. Okay? When we talk about suppression, this is very conscious. No? We consciously suppress impulses. So we try to count to 10, okay, to lessen our anger. But when we talk about repression, we put on a cheerful front, and and this is unconsciously denying the impulses that we are angry. Okay, so that's how different suppression and repression is. No, in suppression we are conscious about it. Okay, that's why we try to calm ourselves down. Okay, but that's very different in repression. Displacement is very common. Okay, and from the word itself, we displace our bad sides. Like when you are angry, okay, um, you get mad to your wife. Now your wife would get mad to your kids, and the kid would pass this anger to his toys or even animals. Okay, displacement of anger or different types of problems. Okay, direct attack is, anger is used as a solution to the problems and frustrations of life. Right? That we don't usually confront problems in ways na it could be positive, but then, you know, using anger as a solution to problems or frustrations. Okay, sometimes so we directly attack people. Okay, and compensation is our attempt to um, you know make up for deficiency by directing energies to another, okay, aspect of one's personality which no one deficiency exists. Like, or um, uh, a person attempts to disguise the presence of a weakness or undesirable trait by emphasizing a desirable characteristic to reduce a feeling of inferiority. Okay. All right. So those are the different types of uh, defense mechanisms and coping strategies. Okay. Now let's talk about um, anxiety. Right. So anxiety is basically an emotion characterized by feelings of tension and worried thoughts and physical changes like increased blood pressure. And there are different ways on how we become, anxious in life. Okay. Now, it's also a lingering apprehension or a chronic sense of worry, tension, or dread. Okay. So and then the sources of which may be unclear. So there's a vague, unpleasant emotion experienced in anticipation of some ill-defined misfortune. Okay, and this is sometimes evident to some people. No, and now, what are the common signs of anxiety? So there's the feelings of nervousness, restless, or tense. Okay, having a sense of impending danger, panic, or um, others, no, like breathing rapidly, sweating, trembling. Okay, these are just the common signs. Okay, and when I talk about depression, it is considered as being colorblind and constantly told how colorful the world is. Okay, so again, depression is being colorblind and constantly told how colorful the world is. Now, according to American Psychological Association, depression is more than just sadness. Okay, and basically, yes, no, um, being sad is different from being depressed. Okay, now The Philippines has the highest number of depressed people in Southeast Asia. Okay, and that records show a high number of cases among the youth. Okay, so this is why it's very important that again we have talk about the different types of support. Okay, the emotional support, informational support. Okay, and here in the Philippines we needed that the most. No? Being depressed is not easy. Okay, so we need people, right? Now, what are the factors that could increase depressive tendencies among university students? Okay, number one here is frequency of smoking, frequency of drinking or drinking sessions, sometimes not living with our biological parents. Okay, also dissatisfaction with one's financial condition, level of closeness with parents, and level of closeness with peers. Okay, and what are the major symptoms? Okay, we have here the feelings of hopelessness, the inability to concentrate, unexplained aches, and so forth and so on. Okay, so if you feel these things, okay, like thoughts of death, suicide, or self harm, you should talk to someone. Okay, that's why we have our guidance counselors in the university so that you could talk about problems. If you cannot talk to them, seek for a professional help. Okay, like we already have different counseling areas or psychologists that would help you, okay, in coping with these kinds of problems. Okay, and you know, like, but again, there are times that we feel hopeless, but do not self-diagnose. Okay, go to a professional so that they can help you the right way. You know, uh, because you know, um, looking at different symptoms and I feel hopeless. Okay, I might be experiencing depression. Again, do not self-diagnose. You know. Now, having compassion starts and ends with having compassion for all those unwanted parts of ourselves. So let's talk about self-compassion. Okay. So self-compassion is basically acting the same way towards yourself when you are having difficult time, or if you failed, or notice something you don't like about yourself. Okay, and it's very important. No, having self-compassion is very important. Okay, like what are the three main components? We have self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. Okay, so being kind and understanding towards self in toward oneself in instances of pain or failure, rather than being harshly self-critical. Okay, so like if you fail to some subjects, do not blame yourself. Okay, sometimes there is blame, but then of course be still kind to yourself. Okay, that in the finals I'll do my best so that I'll pass. You know, and common humanity is perceiving one's experience as part of the larger human experience rather than seeing them as separating and isolating. Okay, that your experience is being experienced by other people. Okay, you are not alone. Okay, and being mindful is holding painful thoughts and feelings is in balance awareness rather than over identifying with them. Okay, so balance. Be mindful of who you really are. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Okay, and in that way, of course, you can know your priorities in life, what to do in this certain situation, and such. Okay, so that would end, okay, our discussion for these finals. Okay, and I hope you were able to learn something. Okay, so if you have questions, you can post your questions in this YouTube video, and I'll try to answer them. All right. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you soon. Okay. Thank you and God bless.